This is the engine out of our $2,500 Mark 7 Golf R, and it sounded like this. In our first video with this, we dropped the oil pan and found gold sparkles inside the oil pan. Because we know we need to either rebuild this engine or buy a new one, we dropped it out of the car. Now it's time to tear this engine down to see if it's rebuildable and to see the damage that's been done. Now, because I pulled this engine out of the car, many things are already semi-loose. Because we already did some diagnosing, the PCV valve is already off and just gotta take it out. I don't like that.
What is wrong with that?
I don't know, that's really in there. Again, this car is from New Hampshire, so many of these items are quite crusty. This whole engine's gonna come apart just like this. I wonder, with this many miles, how many things are gonna break coming out. The spool valve is okay, it looks like. Timing cover off. These have a tendency to leak sometimes. When we do these, we replace the whole cover because they warp. And if they warp, potentially, then you put a gasket on it and then your new gasket leaks because the cover's warped. And then you're gonna be the saddest boy in the town. Let's see how those chains look. Looks like it's been a well-maintained car. Okay, I'm gonna show you my tool. It has two prongs like this, boop. They go into the spool valve. You loosen her up and BT dubs reverse thread. So that means it goes backwards. There you go, see that? It just keeps slipping off because these stupid pins barely stick into the valve. And so it just wobbles all over the place and it's covered in oil. And it's so frustrating. Oh, come on, you little okay. I feel like it's starting too soon. There's not really any metal in there. We're probably not gonna find anything interesting until we get the head off the car and maybe more. There's people who have mentioned about Charles related to this video. One day we'll be doing a collab with Charles again, but for now, Charles. No, we actually have a pretty cool project coming with Charles pretty soon. Not this car, well, maybe this car, but definitely another car. I haven't seen anything that would indicate metal at this point. I mean, this engine looks, look at these chains and this whole area. This is all had oil touching it. It looks beautiful. This is what happens when you're a Golf R owner and you meticulously maintain your car. Meticulously. It looks gross on the outside, but on the inside,
well, then how did it blow
it's beautiful, up? Just like me.
Sorry, I ruined your line. You want to say that again?
No.
Well, right. Then how did it blow up?
How did it blow up? I don't know, we're gonna find out. To be clear, the only thing that's gonna be reused from this engine will be pretty much the block and maybe a few parts here and there. This car has 240,000 miles on it. You think they're gonna use a 240,000 mile turbo? No chance. It doesn't have any play, at least on that shaft. And that would be the first shaft I played with today. This actually has been replaced because that doesn't look like it's been on the car for 240,000 miles on it. Anybody know what that means?
I mean,
that looks like a race. I just took this off the charger. And not like the other Milwaukee batteries that I used to make that car that I did a wheelie in that I fried by running them in series. This one I didn't do that with. This compressor looks like poopy, but here's the thing, guys. I'm cheap. Nope. The same reason why I got that broken impact is the same reason why I'm probably gonna keep this compressor. Intake manifold, I made a video on a water pump that shows you how to take this off. Oh, this is why he mentioned that they had faults after you got the intake manifold off. Probably because of this. This vacuum line's not on anything. Okay, let's see. Oh, oil filter's doing its job. Oh, that one's really sparkly. You see that? That's pieces of the engine in there. There's quite a bit of it though. What most people do when they get it out, they'll take it out like, oh, looks like there's metal in there, and like, ooh. I mean, it looks old, but otherwise I think it looks okay. Intake's off, we're gonna take this fuel rail off. Yeah, I think he actually said he replaced these. So these are new or newish. There were some part number changes on these fuel injectors, so this should be pretty easy to tell. I mean, it's leaking right on the sensor that I'm trying to unplug here. Dripping right on my hand.
It's still going.
And it's the only thing that's gonna ruin these gloves. Now I need new gloves. And I don't wanna buy any more gloves. The boys in the warehouse aren't big fans of, oh, that injector might be, yeah, we'll put it in, it'll probably misfire later. I think that battery might be bad. say. I was really saying some bad, nice things about the gun, and I don't think it was the gun's fault. So I'm sorry, gun. I didn't mean to blame you. This belt looks like it has 247,000 miles on it. There's no service interval on this belt, but you know, when it's got a bajillion D miles on it, you're probably not going to want to keep it. Yeah, it's a pain to replace, to be clear. There is a reverse thread bolt that goes to the intermediate shaft. You have to break loose while holding the intermediate shaft. It's not fun. The really cool part is the belt is captive by the pulley, so you can't get it out without taking that bolt out, which is really the coolest part about the whole thing. You're welcome to give it a shot. So we're taking our turbo off now. These nuts are pretty rusted. There's a guy who said he wanted to buy this IS-38. No, I take that back. He said he wanted this IS-38, and I said it's got 246K on it. What's it worth to you? What do you want to buy this IS-38 turbo to upgrade your car? To have it blow up the next week? Probably rather just spend a couple $100 and buy a new one. ShopDAP.com. It's not a couple hundred, it's like 1,000, but you know, we sell them. ShopDAP.com. Not used ones, but like, you know, buy a new one. This one goes straight to the trash can is what this one's gonna do. The reality of parts like this, guys, I know you're like, ooh, that would be a free turbo. Guess what? I hope your time is worth something because it's gonna take you a long time to install it, and then you're gonna have to buy a new one when it explodes, and you've just paid for a tune on it, and now you got an expensive tune on your car with IS-38, and now you got a brand new turbo you gotta buy because, well, guess what? You didn't plan for it, but if you had thought about it, you should have, but you didn't think, which is why you put a 246,000 mile turbo on your car. Now you gotta install a brand new one, and you're out $1,000, and your car's down from your free turbo. And you could go back to your IS-20, but let's be honest, you're so mad that you're gonna have to do the job twice, you're not gonna do that.
Is that bolt loosened yet?
It's rusted, all right? Oh, the stud's coming out, that's why. Because if I'm gonna build this engine, I'm not gonna be reusing these lines. Cut to me saying, looking through the instructions saying you have to reuse these lines. How's what? Water pump's coming out. I was expecting this to drip everywhere. It's really not. It's only a little bit. I was expecting to be just covered in coolant from this. This is the accessory bracket. Really cool thing that Volkswagen did on this. This has both oil and coolant inside of there. Does it need to go there? No, but does it create an opportunity for it to leak between this and the block? Yes. Okay, 24 millimeter, you're not gonna be able to impact it unless you have a powerful, powerful impact. ShopDAP.com, you can buy one, 24 millimeter. See? If you don't have a powerful impact though, forget about it. Forget about it. It's a little crusty on the timing cover. So see, this is the problem with these timing covers. As you can see, it bends a lot. And when you got a lot of miles on it like that, you don't want to try to reuse this mother father because it's gonna take a long time to try to reuse, and time is money. Timing chains. ShopDAP.com, buy them. The chains do not look floppity or worn or cracked guides or anything like that. They look okay. I'm releasing the tension. This is just like a hydraulic tensioner with a spring inside. So if you have no oil in your car, it can't push on this. If you watched videos of me talking about TSI timing chain tensioners, this is not the same one. So like, stop thinking that Mark 7s are the same as the other TSIs. They use very similar timing chains, but these were updated parts. So like, you don't need to worry about these as much.
Just to be clear, one indication of how I can immediately tell this timing chain is not stretched is the tensioner at the top is not pushed out super far. The ringlets around it are not extended very far. There's only about 4 of them or so. If you had one that was very stretched, you'd be able to see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those rings, and it'd be pushed out very far.
Oh my.
Watch out, that'll shoot right in your face. Like, watch out what the Rock is cooking, and he'll cook a piece of a tensioner right in your face. And do all that and do all that. We're gonna need to put that back in. These are the splines that spline them together. They easily come unsplined if you don't get them aligned up right, because it'll ruin your engine. Okay, head's coming off now. You ready? Are you ready to get some head off? You're supposed to take these off in an order. I'm not really gonna do that because, you know, it's not gonna be a big deal.
It's gonna be a big deal in the comment section.
Yeah, I know, the internet's the warriors, the internet warriors. We ride at dawn to criticize people who do things I can't. Oh. Oops. Whoops. We'll have to grab that later. Like I said, I wasn't gonna like it if I did it that way. And you see what I've done here? So as you can see, this camshaft right here is springing up with the valve cover as you go. So you gotta be careful and hold that feller down. In this case, the timing chains aren't on, so it's not a big deal because they're not really gonna push up on it very hard. But if the timing chains are on, they're gonna be pulling down and it's gonna wanna, what we wanna do is first inspect our timing. And when you look at a cylinder head right here, because this is the cam journal bearings, problems like, let's say the cylinder head's cooked, you'll have damage here. So if you look, there is a little bit of damage here. Not enough you can feel it with your nail. So a lot of times you would be reusing something like this. You wouldn't want to replace a head for something that's that insignificant. It doesn't feel great, but this is not awful. These are beautiful. Again, these are really old cams in terms of miles. So I don't believe I'll be reusing these. They are quite expensive to purchase new camshafts for the Golf R engine. We're probably not gonna wanna reuse old cams because these adjusters go bad, especially on the intake cams. All of this stuff, none of it's stained. This is what happens when you super really well maintain your car. I know even the engine is nuked on this car. The inside of this engine looks amazing. The engine we bought for the Scirocco, that was a real piece of shit, that engine. And it looked awful inside. That was a good example of a bad engine. Okay, head bolts. You want to loosen them in the correct order and try not to dump the engine over. I might need Nathan. And then, remember the last time I needed Nathan's help and he just recorded while I struggled? I should have taken the prop shaft out, but I didn't. So here we are. Okay, we're getting close. Here we go. Flip it on over. Oh, there's a thing. That is your exhaust valve. It's burnt. There is definitely a sealing issue there. Maybe why it had a misfire. So you can see this is like carbon buildup, that white chalky stuff. It's shiny because you can see the carbon is missing there. And so that's why it had a compression issue and a misfire issue. Okay, looking at the inside of the engine, you can see there is the carbon that came off of cylinder 4 valve. I don't know if maybe just jostling it or whatever caused it to crack off or whatever. That's kind of strange. There doesn't appear to be any cylinder scoring in there. Doesn't appear to be damaged. Interesting thought. There's bearing material in the bottom of this engine. We know that. So it's probably likely that this burnt valve, missing periodically over time, eventually damaged the connecting rod bearings, which is the metal we saw in the pan. Let's find out. This is your a windage tray. It keeps the oil from sloshing around. This is your oil level sensor. It measures your oil level. It has a little guard around it, and the reason why is because when you go over turns, when the oil sloshes around your pan, it wants to make sure it keeps oil inside this area, and so it doesn't immediately say you have low oil the minute you make a turn. That was the lower oil pan. This is the upper oil pan. You have to take this off. I don't know why they did it this way. It's been this way for a minute. It's gonna be this way for a minute. Oop, don't worry about that. Oh yeah, it's gonna be everywhere, but I'm trying to just get the most of it. Just be prepared, because we're about to take all this apart. It's gonna be pandemonium. And frankly, when you take an engine block apart, it drips for about the next 6 weeks, or 600 weeks, whichever comes first. How could you ever run out of oil if you can't even let a dry engine run out of oil? Just keeps on dripping. This one is, you gotta go through the upper oil pan to get it off. And then you lose your socket like that. You have to apply a little bit of pressure in case you didn't see. You can see cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, cylinder 4. These are inverted Torx. They're it's like a Torx, but an Innie or an Audi. It's like an Audi. These you can find on my shopdap.com. Yeah, BMWs love e-Torx. On our side, they're pretty rare. Give it a couple taps. All right, well, That is a bearing that is damaged. See how it's gold? Not supposed to be that color. Yeah, there's the other bearing. You can see it's all copper looking. I was rotating this engine over and I noticed this noise. Ready? So that's what you heard. All pistons have arrows that point to the timing chain. So if you look right here, there's an arrow pointing that way. So we know which way it goes. So we can label them 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I haven't loosened this one yet. That's why I told you that noise when we were spinning the engine over is not supposed to make any noise. Seems like we have 3 cylinders with rod knock. There you go. Okay, that bearing is not there. So remember the bearings that we said were worn? These ones aren't home. And what you can see is right here is where this home is. The definition of a spun bearing. So here's our 2 bearings. It goes on the upper and lower part of your rod and they go like this. And then obviously it goes around and around inside there. Engine spins a bearing, it will wear the bearing and then it will rotate inside of itself like this. Obviously, when you have an engine moving at 3, 4, 5,000 RPM and it's sitting like this, it will wear it down to where there's barely anything left. And that's what we're about to show you. We should be able to rotate this bearing, what's left of the bearing, around. So you can see this is what's left of the bearing, and you can see it's all frayed on these edges. It's because it's been getting chewed away at while the engine's rotating. Oh, and the other bearings here too. So you can see they were stacked on top of each other. Here is cylinder 4, and as you can see, the bearing is still in the other end of the connecting rod. It stayed in when I popped it off. It's still worn. You can see all this is wear. They shouldn't look like that, and you can see the inner one is also worn. And then it's starting to get a little bit of this copper color. So this is almost like the stages of wear here. Cylinder 4 was the best one. Cylinder 3 was a little bit worse. You can see it's worn through all the coating on the outside there, and it's all that kind of copper color. 2 was spun, and they're pretty much destroyed. And then cylinder 1 was the worst one. I actually had to like chip this bearing off of the journal on the crank. Now, many people are going to ask about crank walk. That is a concern that everybody has with these cars. And this is what crank walk looks like. This is what happens when the thrust washers wear, fall out of their position into your oil pan, and then allow your crank to move back and forth. Think that issue is a major problem. Think again. It's overstated, it's overblown, it's unlikely to happen. It does happen to people, and it's awful when it does. This car has a South Bend clutch. It's upgraded. People think that upgraded clutches kill thrust bearings and cause crank walk. This engine, obviously boatload of miles. So as you look, you can see this crank does not move back and forth at all. Not even a little. So you're talking about 241,600 miles, no crank walk, no issues. The tolerances on this stuff are really tight. There's our first main bearing. You can see, looks pretty nice. That's what a bearing surface looks like. Not gold or copper or chewed to pieces or major wear. It should be pretty even across. If you made me guess, the car is clearly very well maintained. The owner mentioned to me that he had a misfire that he had been chasing. It was very minor and it was sporadic, and then over time it progressively got worse. He had done things like injectors and carbon cleaning to attempt to address that issue. Maybe it had a misfire, it was caused by like a failed injector or something along those lines. He remedied that, but by the time it had been fixed, the valve was burnt, causing misfires. And then if that happened and you would continue to drive on a misfire for a while, it could damage the bearings of it. They wear, they start sending metal through things. In turn, everything kind of domino effects all the way down. Clearly, spun bearings is the final result of this, but the spun bearings are a new thing. The misfire that he had came first. So I think the only moral of the story you can take away is if you have a problem, make sure you address it, because eventually you could end up with a nuked engine. If you could have had a burnt valve potentially, and we've replaced burnt valves at our shop, when we need to. That would be much less expensive than buying an engine. Next, we're going to build an engine for this car. I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet, but stay tuned for that engine build.